Hi there guys, I'm Nikhil from GreedyTech and this is the complete review of the LG V30 Plus. This is the V30 Plus, the second flagship from LG for the year of 2017, which got launched in India pretty late in December. It is sold online exclusively on Amazon.in at 45,000 rupees only in one variant in two colors, black and silver. Black is the one I prefer and I would suggest you to get two. With that said, let's have a quick look at the physical overview and then we'll check out the review. On the front, it has a massive 6-inch display with the sensors, front-facing camera and earpiece above the display, and below the display it's completely plain. On the back, it has a dual camera setup followed by a single LED flash and laser assisted focus. Below that, we have the fingerprint scanner that also acts like a power button. Now that's followed by the phone's name and LG's branding. On the right side, we have the SIM card tray that houses a nano SIM slot and a hybrid SIM slot, and on the left side, we have the volume buttons. At the top, we have the audio jack and a microphone hole, and at the bottom, we have a speaker grill, a USB Type-C charging port, and a microphone hole once again. Now let's get started with the review with design and build. It has a complete glass body with an aluminum frame at the center, with a curved Corning Gorilla Glass 5 on the front and a tempered Corning Gorilla Glass 5 on the back. It even has Corning Gorilla Glass 4 protection for the camera module. For a phone with such a huge screen, it still weighs 158 grams and feels very light in hand, and the weight is very well balanced throughout the phone. Because of the glass back, yes, it looks super premium, pretty good, but it is super slippery and a fingerprint magnet. Every time I hold it in my hands to watch a video or just for casual browsing, I have to be extra careful not to drop it. It looks premium, feels premium, but doesn't feel all that awesome. There are few phones with a complete glass build like the Moto X4, Samsung S8 and the Note 8 that leave a very deep impression in terms of build. This phone looks and feels good but doesn't feel all that extraordinary. When compared to the Samsung S8, it is wider because of the 18:9 aspect ratio and it has a similar form factor as the OnePlus 5T. Like all the previous V series phones, both V30 and the V30 Plus are US military standard 810G compliant. It just means it has increased drop and impact resistance. Now so far everything seems good and looks great, but there are manufacturing defects with this phone. Well, everyone might not be facing with this issue, but I faced it already twice. This is currently my second V30 Plus that I got as a replacement for the first one. Now the problem with my first unit is that at the top right corner of the display panel, it slightly popped out. I complained to Amazon, an LG executive came and verified the defect, so I got a replacement. Now the replacement was much worse than the first one. I can see the light bleeding from the right side corner. So if you're going to buy the LG V30 Plus or if you've already bought it, just check the top right corner of the screen to see if it is placed properly or not. Now so far that's the only problem I have in terms of build. Besides that, everything looks pretty good. It's not the best, but it's still pretty good. This phone has all the basic sensors including gyroscope and compass and all the other sensors that are required to make this device daydream ready. But it is missing an LED notification light and FM radio. At least the version sold in India, that's the LG V30 Plus that I have right now, is missing FM radio. All the other V30 and the V30 Plus phones are missing an LED notification light. As a replacement, we have always on display, which we'll come back to later. We have the fingerprint scanner on the back, easily accessible with the index finger, and it is fast. It's not the fastest, but it's sufficiently fast. It reads the fingerprint quickly, but takes some time to unlock the phone. That's noticeable only when you try to compare it with phones like the Pixel 2 or the OnePlus 5T. Volume buttons have a nice tactile feel to them, but it's kinda odd to take a screenshot by pressing the volume down and power button. Thankfully we have a quick toggle for that, but instinctively I always go for the hardware keys. This phone supports dual SIM along with dual 4G and supports VoLTE. I have used Jio for data and calls and I didn't face any issues with it. Call quality and signal reception are pretty good. In fact, it is one of the best phones in terms of signal reception after Samsung S8. At least that's my experience. One of the highlighting features of this phone is its haptic feedback engine. It's not the same as every other phone out there. For this new V30 and the V30 Plus phones, LG has used high precision vibration motors to provide some complex vibration patterns for different things we do. Whether you're unlocking the phone, taking a picture, using the floating bar, or changing the knobs in the camera app, you get a different type of haptic feedback. This isn't mind-blowing or out of the world, but a different experience that you probably won't get on other phones. Like all the current flagship phones, even this new V series phone comes with IP68 water and dust resistance. Now that's something which was missing in the previous LG V20 and that's still missing in the latest OnePlus 5T. This phone comes with a 6-inch OLED display with an 18:9 aspect ratio, 537 ppi and HDR10 support, and it is also daydream ready. The P in the OLED stands for plastic. Now those were just the specs. Now coming to the actual display, sunlight legibility is pretty good, comparable with the Pixel 2 and the Samsung S8, which comes with AMOLED panels. Viewing angles are great, and when you tilt the phone you still get the blue tint effect. It is not as severe as the Pixel 2 XL, but the problem still exists. It's a hardware problem, but if you ignore it, it's not going to be a huge deal. At least the display on this phone, V30 Plus, is slightly better than the Pixel 2 XL, so you still get the blue tint effect, but it's very minimal and you won't even notice it unless you're trying to find it. So at least in terms of blue tint issue, it's not a huge deal. Now coming to the picture quality, colors look very vibrant just like the AMOLED panels, and we have true blacks, which is something I really love. My primary device is the Pixel 2, and coming from a smaller display, this display isn't just huge. You get to see more information than what you see on a smaller screen. You can see more emails, additional Facebook feeds, more comments, simply more of everything. Using this phone single-handed is almost impossible because of the 18:9 aspect ratio. This phone has a form factor of a phone with 5.5-inch display, say like the OnePlus 5, so it kinda fits comfortably in your hand, but it's not a single-handed phone. If you want to use it in a single hand, you have to use the mini view mode, which is also known as one-handed mode in some other phones. With that said, it is comfortable to hold even for long duration, especially while taking calls. On the whole, I like the display, I like the rounded corners and curved edges, but I still miss the secondary display from the V20. As an alternative, we have something called as a floating bar as a replacement, but that doesn't even come close to having a dedicated secondary screen. In fact, that's the one thing I like the most on the V20 and so far in the V series phones. Like most of the phones, this phone comes with an always-on display with a lot of customization. You get 9 different templates to choose from, ranging from time, calendar, and you can even display a picture with colors. And the most important thing is, we can interact with it. We can have access to music controls, and we can even check out the notification toggles and the battery percentage. It even keeps moving all around the display, so we don't have to worry about the screen burn-in issues either. In comparison to its brother LG G6, display surface on this phone feels more fluid because of the curved sides. Curves on this phone are pretty impressive, but they're not like the Samsung S8 or the S7 Edge. The display just doesn't bend. So we don't get the bezel-less experience that Samsung calls Infinity Display with the LG V30 Plus. To sum it up, displays are great, not as good as the Samsung's AMOLED panels, but you can say it's the second best thing out there in terms of OLED panels. Anyway, going on next to the camera department, this phone has a dual camera setup on the rear with a 16 megapixel primary camera with f1.6 aperture, with optical image stabilization and laser assisted focus, and a 13 megapixel secondary camera with f1.9 aperture with wide angle lens with 120-degree field of view. On the front, it has a 5 megapixel camera with 90-degree field of view. Now let's look at the camera interface. I have posted a dedicated video for the camera review of this phone, so check that out for more information. To sum it up, this phone has great cameras, but not the best. Primary camera has an f1.6 aperture and it does take some great shots. But aperture isn't everything. Focusing speeds, capturing speeds, color reproduction are all good, but it has exposure issues. Unlike most brands, LG has stuck with the wide-angle camera for its secondary camera. This time it's better than the LG V20 and you can take some great wide-angle shots. Primary camera has exposure issues, but the secondary camera doesn't. Now selfies are probably the biggest letdown. They are super wide with all the bells and whistles. Like voice control, you can say cheese to take a picture. You also have a gesture to take a selfie. That all sounds good, but the picture quality or the selfies themselves are not good enough for the flagship, and it is especially bad in low lighting conditions. We can record video in 4K with stabilization, but stabilization works better at 1080p. In 4K, footage isn't very stable. One best thing about video recording is we can switch between the primary camera and the secondary wide-angle camera even while recording video. That might be really handy. This is also a phone that specializes in videography. So we have two additional modes called manual video recording and cine video mode. In manual mode, we can change the shutter speed, ISO, exposure, focus, white balance, and we can also record video in LG Cine Log format to color grade it later, and we can also record audio in high definition quality. LG also offers us cine video mode where it gives us 15 different color grading presets to add a cinematic look to your footage. We also have a new feature called point zoom, which allows us to zoom into a particular point in the screen, unlike most phones which just zoom into the center of the screen. So on the whole, cameras on this phone are good but not the best or comparable with the flagships like the Samsung S8 or the Pixel 2. If you want a phone that takes the best pictures in auto mode, then this is not it. But if you want a lot of manual control over the cameras on your phone, then this is the best phone for that. This phone is currently running a heavily skinned version of Android called LG UX based on Android version 7.1.2. It currently has November security patch and the Oreo update is right around the corner. It doesn't have any bloatware but has some apps from Google like the Slides and Sheets which you might never use. By default you get a launcher without an app drawer. You have the option to enable app drawer from settings, but that is like a different LG launcher. On the whole, the default home launcher isn't all that responsive or feature rich. Even the default keyboard the phone comes with was kinda slow and doesn't support swipe right out of the box. So first thing I did, install Nova Launcher and Gboard keyboard. Now coming to the UI, the entire user interface, it feels too cartoonish at times, especially the caller interface. But it does offer some additional features that are not found in the stock Android, like always on display, one-handed mode, double tap to wake gesture, gaming mode, floating bar, smart automation settings, and many more. They are good but not very unique. Something like dual apps or ultra power saving mode from the Samsung phones would have been better. It has face unlock and voice unlock features. Setting them up is easy. They work but they are not secure. We can fake both of them with a picture and audio recording. So I would definitely suggest you not to use them. Now with that said, there are some things that I like about the software too. In the camera app, we have something called as a camera roll, which gives you a preview of the previously taken images. That's a nice way to take advantage of the huge display. It also has the option to hide the navigation bar automatically to give you a much more immersive experience. I would prefer to hide the navigation bar and use pie controls instead. Aside from the split screen mode from stock Android, we have floating apps which can be accessed using QSlide. I never use them, so I really can't comment about them. But I'm pretty sure that using these apps will definitely affect the performance. Now, one of the most highlighting features of the earlier V series phones was the secondary display, and now that's gone. As a replacement, LG is offering us a floating bar with similar shortcuts. It's like Samsung Edge, but much smaller with very flat design. I would rather use the pie control over this. LG also gives us the option to remap the navigation buttons and the option to add an extra button. This extra button can switch SIM cards, open floating windows, and even take a screenshot, which you can doodle later. On the whole, in the software department, it's just good. Nothing impressive so far. You can check out my video on best features of LG V30 Plus to know about all the software features this phone has to offer. This phone supports the Qualcomm Snapdragon 835 processor along with Adreno 540 GPU with 4GB of RAM. These are the Antutu and Geekbench scores. In actual day-to-day performance, it was super smooth. Well, not as smooth as the OnePlus 5T, but comparable with the Pixel phone, and in my experience was way better than the Samsung S8 and Note 8 in terms of responsiveness. I didn't notice much of a lag coming from a Pixel 2. I have used the LG V20 and the LG G6, and this phone is way better than those phones in terms of responsiveness. At least you don't need to worry about performance on this phone. I hope LG doesn't ruin it with future updates like it did with LG G6. Memory management is good so far. I wish it had 6GB of RAM, but we can live with it. Now coming to the gaming experience, it was really good, especially because of the bigger Quad HD display. I personally loved playing Modern Combat 5 on this phone. Visuals were great and there was no heating issues. Maximum temperature while gaming was always under 42 degrees. But while using the camera app intensively to take pictures continuously for 5 minutes, phone reached a maximum of 49 degrees. That was hot but still manageable and it cools down quickly. You can check out my gaming review video for more information on that. This phone comes with an audio jack along with a dedicated hi-fi quad DAC, so audio experience on a wired headset is really good. This phone also supports Bluetooth 5.0 along with aptX and aptX HD codecs along with Sony LDAC codec after audio update. So you will get the best audio experience even on a Bluetooth headset given that you already have a good wireless headset. Now coming to the software, this phone comes with two different music players. One is from Google and another one is an in-house music player that comes with sound presets and filters that makes the best use of the quad DAC. Now coming to the speaker, it is loud and clear but not the loudest one I've heard. This phone is powered by a 3300 mAh non-removable battery that supports Qualcomm's Quick Charge 3.0 and wireless charging. It takes around 1.5 hours to charge the phone completely over a wired connection and the battery life is pretty good. On an average, I got around 5 to 6 hours of screen on time with Wi-Fi always on always on display on with increased brightness, and I was using the screen at Quad HD resolution. So battery life is definitely good despite high usage. On the whole, this phone feels more like a slightly better version of the LG G6 with a newer processor, better display, a floating bar, and a new haptic engine. Rest of the things are almost the same as G6. Honestly, this phone is not the best at anything. Its design and build are great. It has a great display, but not as good as the AMOLED panels. It has a different camera setup and offers a lot of control over them. But once again, they are not as good as the Pixel phones or the Samsung S8 or the Note 8. Performance is good, in fact way better than the previous LG flagships, but still not the best. But it is currently the most feature-rich flagship out there. When compared to the Samsung phones, it offers better performance and battery life. When compared to the OnePlus 5T, it offers better display, Daydream support, additional features, and water resistance. Most importantly, this time, LG has done a great job with pricing, which puts it very close to online exclusive phones like the OnePlus 5T. For a price tag of 45,000 rupees, this is definitely worth it. But if you are planning to buy this phone, beware of the manufacturing defects. Make sure that the display panel is perfectly placed in. So guys, that was the complete review of the LG V30 Plus. I hope you liked it. If you have any comments, complaints, compliments, or want us to make any specific video, tweet out to us with the hashtag AskGreedyTech and I'll try to make it as soon as possible. If you like this video, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel to see more cool videos on tech. I'm Nikhil from GreedyTech signing off. Have a nice day.